perspective, what you've got to figure out how to do is replicate what you do and be able to teach everyone to do it. And so I think it's incredibly important if you're going to scale any business that you've got to know what the things are that you've done well and the things that you want to continue to have happen and teach people to do them.
Well, most business owners start with a very clear purpose and a reason for why they go into business. But it's not too long before things change. You get busy, cash flow's tight, sales are drying up, you need to change something. And it's very easy to compromise on that original reason why you started your business and the values that mattered to you so much at that point in time. There's a lot of pressure on business owners, particularly when you're trying to grow. There's pressure to scale, to grow, and also pressure to compromise. Our guest today is going to talk about their business where there is no compromise. They are very true to their values and they are growing and scaling a very successful business. So joining me today is Chris Treloar, and he's the CEO of PLNT Burger, which is growing through rapid expansion, but staying very true to the mission of creating joyful, sustainable, and inclusive food experiences that taste absolutely great. So we're going to explore with Chris how you can combine that visionary thinking, operational experience, and driving growth, but staying true to your purpose. Chris, welcome to the Business Behind Your Business.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Paul. Appreciate it.
Let's go back to why did PLNT Burger come about? How did it come about? What was the reason that, we see there's so many food chains, so many restaurant chains. What was the need for a chain or an experience like PLNT Burger?
Yeah, I mean, at the core, PLNT Burger is a mission-driven company, right? So, I mean, the founders saw an opportunity in the market. There's a problem. You know what I mean? There's beef is being scaled at a rate that's unsustainable, and so they saw an opportunity with a plant-based meat to be able to offer a product to people that was different but still just as delicious, to try to help to fix some of those opportunities they saw in the world, both with human health and with the danger to the planet. And then at its core, they just really wanted to provide people with another option of really delicious food that was, just a little bit different. I think there's so many different options out there. And I think so many people don't know really how delicious plant-based meats can be nowadays, right? I mean, so many people have not tried them. And so our founder is one of them. So Spike Mendelsohn is a burger chef at heart. He's predominantly in the past worked with, traditional beef. And then Seth Goldman, who's the chairman of the board for Beyond Meat, they were at a conference together, and really Seth wanted Spike to carry Beyond Meat in one of his restaurants. So he slid some Beyond Meat under Spike's chair. And then Spike's wife is actually vegan, so he took it home and he made it for her. And he was really blown away by how good the product tasted. And at the time, he said, wow, there's this problem, right? There's all these people are talking about climate change and about the danger to human health, and there's really no solution. And most people are not really willing to change up their diet in that way. So he was like, what if we develop a restaurant that will allow us to fix those problems, but in a way that's, people don't even realize, right? People are out here buying food and buying a product that's just delicious that they really enjoy. And we're kind of solving those problems through offering somebody a very low barrier of entry product. So he pitched to Seth, hey, why don't we just open he called it the plant-based McDonald's. Let's open a plant-based burger chain that sells all the same American favorites, same, burger, fries, and see where it goes. So they opened their first one in 2019 in Silver Spring, Maryland through a program called the Friends of Whole Foods, which is, you operate a kiosk inside of Whole Foods. And the immediate, demand was overwhelming. So there was a need to continue to grow it.
So do you find that there's a consumer market that's developing that is a lot more, I guess, conscious, planet conscious, wanting to align with purpose? So they want to buy food from suppliers, have that experience from people that actually demonstrate values that go beyond just making a profit.
Yeah, no, I think people are so much more involved in every decision they make nowadays. You know what I mean? whether it's eating or it's what we wear or it's the, the products that we use with our hair, I think people are certainly educated more and more every day on how their decisions and those kind of meal daily tasks, again, whether it's the products that we buy for our home or the food that we buy, now more than ever before, you can walk up to pretty much anyone on the street now and they have an idea of what's in food, whether they believe one way or another. They certainly have that opinion based on some facts that they've learned, just because there's so much information out there and it's so much easier for people to consume information now than there was years ago. I mean, even, my kids who are, they range in age from 7 on up to 25, they have so much more information than I did at their ages, and they have so many more opinions, and they care about things, which is wonderful, because I think when I was that age, I didn't care about much except for hanging out with friends or, playing sports or something else. So we're certainly in an ever-changing world where I think people are becoming more and more educated and more thoughtful about the decisions they're making and how they impact, both themselves and the world.
So you've got that consumer base, which I guess, as we mentioned, the younger generations are coming through. They're a lot more fussy about where they buy, why they buy, and the experience that they have. And if they enjoy the experience, they tell their friends. So there's a lot of, I guess, success if you do it well and you align with them. But there's also that risk that if you upset the fan base, then it can go the opposite direction. You mentioned starting the business in 2019. Restaurant industry's going through a lot of change. Consumers are a lot more, I guess, informed, but also, choosy about what they buy, and the experiences they have. A lot of changes in the industry, but you also went through quite a big change, which affected a lot of restaurants and food suppliers, was when COVID hit. So you started in 2019, COVID hits, I think the later part of 2019 was when it started, and then COVID hits in 2020. So much change. How did you, remain true to the purpose during all of that turmoil?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say anything good came out of COVID, but I think one of the things that came out of COVID was really more of that education, right? I think people saw the health implications that happened through COVID, and people became even more invested in eating things that were quote unquote healthier for them, and that education piece ramped up. The other good thing for us, and the other thing that we were able to do during COVID, was being that we were inside of Whole Foods at the time when it started. Whole Foods pretty quickly closed all of their prepared foods sections, and they needed to have something in there because people were still grocery shopping. Of all the things you couldn't do, you could still grocery shop. So during that time is really when they asked us to grow, and because we were so nimble and really excited about the opportunity to grow, anytime they offered us an opportunity, we went in there and opened a new store. And because the grocery stores were still open, we were actually able to kind of flourish during that time, which was really great for us.
So there's an opportunity there. So you've identified an opportunity. When you confront it, and this is where I think a lot of small, medium business owners really miss out, is that when something comes along their path which is not ideal, disrupts them, it causes some pain. They're not looking for what's the opportunity in this. How can we actually use this set of circumstances to create something better?
Yeah, no, I mean, there's an old saying. I definitely didn't make it up. It's the answer is yes. What's the question, right? If someone needs something, we're going to do it. And we operate very much like that. And we tell people all the time that, we partnered with Airmark for a little while to do some little pop-ups with them. And we would tell them, I mean, if you call me on a Thursday and you need me there on a Friday, we'll figure it out. Anytime there's an opportunity to serve the product and to have more people try it. Because I think when you sell a niche product, when you sell something that's not your traditional, product, which, a plant-based or a vegan burger is, every opportunity for people to try the product is a huge opportunity for us. And in my mind, anytime you give up any of those opportunities, it's just, that even if it was 10 people that could have tried the product, those 10 people could have talked to another 10 people, could have talked to another 5 people, there's an unending amount of possibilities that you lose the people you could have interacted with. So anytime there's an opportunity for us to sell the product in any way, regardless of the platform or the location, we really jump right in with both feet and try to operate. And I'm lucky enough to have a really good team that's also willing to do that, because it's not always easy to find people that are like, hey man, we need to go to Boston tomorrow to do a little pop-up. And I live in Maryland, and they're like, yeah, sure, let's go. We'll figure out the flight. So that's not always easy. So we're lucky to have a group of people that work with us that have that same sort of mentality, which is, to your point, when there's opportunities, every opportunity that someone else passes up becomes someone else's opportunity. So we absolutely don't pass those up.
Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes we try to take advantage of the opportunity, but if it goes wrong or it doesn't go the way that we want it to, we then start closing ourselves off to future opportunities. Obviously there would have been situations where the outcomes weren't as what you expected. They would have been less than favorable, or maybe sometimes you walk away going, oh, well, that just was a disaster. How did you, keep moving forward when you're confronted with those kinds of experiences?
I mean, the first thing is, I think you've got to have some humility, right? Like, you've got to be accepting of the fact that you make those mistakes. I've always been very passionate about service, both as a consumer and as a business owner, right? You have to, even when you make a mistake, you have to go 150 times even more than you would have initially. And there's studies out there that say that if you have a bad experience as a consumer and someone goes out of their way to fix it, those people are far more likely to become brand ambassadors for you than people that just come to your location and receive the, great service, right? Because those are the people that they had a bad experience, they were upset, you went out of your way to fix it. And I think that same sort of mentality in every situation, right? Like, if we took on an event that was probably a little too quick and we weren't able to be prepared for it, and we go there and things are going bad, the one thing that you can always do is you can control how you handle the situation. And I think in 90% of cases, 99% of cases, right, you're, as a consumer, even when things are going bad, if the person that you're dealing with directly is handling it well, explaining things, doing what they can to take care of you, offering you something to get you to come back or to make you feel better about the situation, you're typically not upset about it. The times when you're upset are really when you have a bad experience and no one recognizes it. You go to a restaurant and you've waited 2 hours for food and people are walking by avoiding eye contact with you versus coming over to talk to you. So I think the most important thing is to be willing to accept that you make mistakes and do everything you can to try to make them better.
So a couple of things you've mentioned, talking about you had a really great team that allows you to jump on these opportunities, but you also mentioned fixing issues with customer service. And as you were saying that, I was remembering some of the experiences I've had in restaurants where things weren't quite well. But what I actually tend to remember more than the quality of the food was the way somebody took responsibility and made sure that we got a solution. They were empowered to do that. I'm guessing you've given your team, as you scale, because you can't be in every location, so you can't make those decisions. You must have some kind of process, or you've given them the accountability that they can make those decisions to fix the problem. It seems, I guess, counter to what I see in a lot of small businesses where people are punished for making mistakes, but you're trying to encourage your staff to solve issues.
Yeah, I mean, what I've always said is that, mistakes are going to be made. I actually believe in my life, I tell my kids the same thing, that you learn far more from mistakes than you do anything else, right? Like, it's the ability to try something, fail at it, accept that you failed at it, and learn from it. That is lost on some people sometimes, right? I think people are, it's hard to admit sometimes you made a mistake. And if you can't admit you made a mistake, it's really, really tough to learn from it. So what I've always tried to do is tell people if you make a mistake, you're not going to be in trouble. If you do something maliciously, if you're attempting to break something or to do something you're not supposed to, those are the only times where you'll receive any sort of punishment, right, or any sort of any sort of you'll have any sort of issue. But if you try to do something, you're trying really hard, and you make a mistake, that's fine. We can fix that. You were trying hard as long as you're willing to accept that you made that mistake. We speak about, so we have a weekly meeting with our GMs, and one of the things that we talk about on a weekly basis is guest experience. So we go through previous weeks. We have an internal feedback mechanism called Ovation, and we get all of our feedback from there. All of the GMs are empowered to handle it on their own, so they'll respond immediately to guests. Our goal is to respond immediately, but at the least, it needs to be before a day. So we think that any sort of feedback, even positive feedback, needs to be responded to, in less than 24 hours. And we go over those scores. We're, very critical of ourselves and the type of feedback that we get. And then our goal is to always turn that around. I mean, especially now in a world where people are being very conscious of what they're spending. If you're not going over and above and doing a great job, again, lots of people have good food. To your point, people very rarely, unfortunately, unless the food is blowing you away, remember the food, but they will always remember the experience they had while eating that food. And so we've always been very passionate about it, and we empower our GMs to talk to people, to reach out, to deal with the feedback on their own. And again, have some humility. We all make mistakes. It's normal. It's acceptable. It happens. Accept that you made one, and then go back and try to make it better.
So to be able to grow, how many stores, how many restaurants are there at the moment?
We have 13 currently.
13. But let's say to go from one restaurant to 13, you've got to grow and you've got to have consistency. How important is it to have the systems that are in place, everybody knows and everybody follows when you're trying to grow to that scale?
Yeah, I think it's probably the most important thing, right? Is you got to have great people, but you also have to have very great directions for them on how to do things. Because to your point, as you're growing, especially if you want to scale, and I talk about this all the time. I actually have a gentleman that runs operations for me that we have a weekly meeting, and he's a doer. So when there's a problem, he will go there and he will fix it. That you could have a problem in Hawaii tomorrow. We don't have a location in Hawaii, by the way, but if we did, Mike would jump on a plane, he'd go fix it immediately. And one of the things that, I'm always saying to him, and I've been working with him now, because the guy's so immensely talented, is that you've got to figure out how to solve these problems without physically being there all the time. Because when you think about when we have 100 locations, you're going to bounce around like a pinball, and never be nearly as effective. What you've got to figure out how to do is replicate what you do and be able to teach everyone to do it. And so I think it's incredibly important, if you're going to scale any business, that you've got to know what the things are that you've done well and the things that you want to continue to have happen, and teach people to do them. But I think the other thing too is you've got to accept that, I think at sometimes as operators, we really want perfection, right? We walk into a store and we want everything to be perfect. And I think you need to figure out how to be comfortable in an imperfect situation, right? Because my idea of perfection and someone else's are going to be different. And so you have to develop kind of your non-negotiables. These are the things that we have to do as a brand, as a company, to be successful. And then the other things, you can't harp on everything all the time, or it makes it really difficult for people to understand what's important. So we really focus, the food's got to be good, the service has got to be excellent, and people have got to be happy. And that's really the things that we focus on a daily basis. And, the other things, if there's issues here and there that's going to happen, we'll fix those, as long as you're doing those other things.
So you mentioned a couple of really good things there, like your operations manager can't be physically present in 100 locations, physically solving every individual problem. And that's a trap that a lot of business owners fall into, because they think that they have to go and solve the problems. And I'm just looking at, so Spike Mendelsohn and Seth Goldman started the business with their ideas, their visions. But at some point, they've realized they're not the right person to run the day-to-day operations, to actually plan the growth of the business. And that's why, I guess, where you come in your role, How important was that step in growing the business? Because a lot of business owners get very passionate about their baby. They don't want to let go. They don't want anybody else running the show. But why was it so important for you to step into that role?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that, and not just for them, for me too, the thing is to kind of always recognize your shortcomings, is probably a bad word, but like recognize the gaps, right? Like there's things that I'm not great at. Like I don't know a ton about marketing, so I pay someone to do marketing, and I have an input and an opinion about it, but they're the experts, and you'll readily hear me say that to people, like, you're the expert. I'm learning from you, and I'll try to continue to acquire knowledge. But I think any good leader, and Seth and Spike are both amazing leaders, they've got to recognize where are the gaps, where are the things that I can place someone else at, and I can trust them enough to allow them to do their jobs. And then, we all be kind of successful together. And that, to your point, I think it's tough for some people. People are, especially, we can become victims of our own success a little bit sometimes. We do something, we do it well. We think the only reason that it happened was because of the decisions that we made. Like, we did this really well because we did it. And that's very seldomly true. In most cases, there's so many other people and so many other things involved that allowed you to be successful. And really identifying and being honest with yourself that, this is not something I'm good at. Like I say all the time, I don't work in kitchens anymore. I haven't in a long time. If I have to, I'll jump back there. But I promise you, I will probably get in your way a little more than you'd like. And I will probably create more of a bottleneck than I'll help. So I tend to keep myself out of those positions. If I go somewhere and I have to, I'll jump back there and I'll certainly have an opinion. But, knowing that that's not my strong suit, I think is good, because then, the team that's there, I allow them to execute it well. And the stuff that I know that I'm good at, the stuff that I'm able to help them with, I'll help them with those things. And I've been in situations in the past with other leaders where they felt like they had to do something. So they're like, I'm going to jump in here. I'm going to jump on the line for a little while. And everyone around them is so frustrated because they don't know what they're doing. And they're kind of in the way. They feel like they're being helpful and that the team appreciates it. But the truth of the matter is the team really doesn't. They're really kind of like, would you please get out of my way? Let me do the job that I know how to do. So I think there just needs to be an acceptance of that. And, and allowing people that know what they're doing to do it really well and trust them.
Yeah, that's great. Look, one other thing I just want to touch on, because sometimes business owners are not very good at telling people how successful they are in achieving their purpose. So we might say we've gone into business so in PLNT Burger's situation, to provide a more sustainable food source. What are you doing to let people know how you're actually going on that progress?
Yeah, so we a few years ago, what I thought would be cool is if we developed a little bit of a tracker. So we have a tracker up on our website. The tracker currently shows, it's very estimated, right? It's not an exact science. We don't for sure know how much water, land, or anything that we've saved or carbon emissions we've saved, but we take an estimate from some studies that we've done and we have it up on the website. It's this constantly moving ticker. And then on everyone's app, we developed the same thing. So as an app customer, every time you buy something, you get your impact back. It just gives people kind of a little fun way to see the stuff they're doing. And if you're interested in that, awesome. I think you'll find it fun, and you'll want to gamify it a bit. And if you're not, just another little thing. And I think the amazing thing about it is I think so many people probably don't know that. When I came to the company, I didn't know kind of how those choices impacted the world, right? Like I ate my food because I ate it and it was time to eat. I liked the way it tasted. I never would have guessed. I knew, like everyone else, like, smog is bad, and, you can't use plastic bags. And I knew what, the general public knew, but I had no idea the impact that, beef consumption has. So, sometimes it's good to educate people, you know what I mean? And if you do it in a fun, non-intrusive way, I think people are much more likely to pay attention to it. So we just keep it kind of a fun little thing on our website, fun little thing in our app. And if you're interested, you check it out. And if not, enjoy the food,
Yeah, certainly when I did check out the website, I did notice that, and which is why I mentioned it, because I think it's a good way to show the link between the product you're serving or product you're creating and the experience and the problem that you're solving. But doing it in it is a fun way, and it was not, unfortunately, what I've seen with a few other places, it wasn't in your face. It was very much, by the way, this is the contribution you're making by choosing to eat that plant burger.
Yeah. No, and I think that's one of the, exactly what you said is so true. I think one of the mistakes, especially the movement has made sometimes is trying to forcefully educate people. And I think as a person that was not vegan when I started here, I have an interesting kind of perspective, because when I started, I knew business, I knew operations, I knew how to, make the stores run well and how to make the products well. I knew all the things you need to know fundamentally to run a restaurant, but I didn't have all those other pieces. And when I became a CEO, I really wanted to have more knowledge. So I began to do more studying. And once you do it on your own, it makes total sense. And it's much easier to digest. I think when you forcefully push it on people, they don't want to listen to you. And everything you say after that fact becomes hollow, which is why our goal really is just to sell really great food. And if you find it and you like it, and then you want to start to learn more, you'll at your own pace decide what and how you want to do it. But if we can give you this really great option that you're not sacrificing for taste or quality, then, why not?
So I guess the best way for our listeners who are located in the States to check out what's going on is to actually go to the plant burger restaurants, mostly located on the East Coast.
Anyway. Yeah, we're all on the upper East Coast, the Northeast Coast.
Yeah, but expanding to Hawaii?
I wish. That would be, my wife would be really happy. Yeah, I'm sure she'd want to come to that opening for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as I mentioned, the restaurants, go check them out. Check out the food, check out the quality of the food, but also check out, I guess, the experience that you have, and jump on the app, jump on the website, and just see that example of how there's a link shown between the choices you make as a consumer and the impact that has. But also you'll appreciate it's done in a fun way. It's not force fed. It's a great education experience, and it's great to see businesses that are growing but being true to their purpose. And I think you've really succeeded there. Not just succeeded in terms of growing the business, but succeeded in remaining true to your purpose.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, it's always been, again, it's kind of at the core of what you do, right? I think if you're going to do something for a reason, and I think that's where you see brands fail too, is they do something, people love it because they do it a certain way or because of the reason. You have raving fans who really believe in the purpose and believe in the product, and then you water it down because you find a way for it to be less expensive or whatever else the reason is. And then you slowly but surely lose who you are. And I think that's when people don't like it as much, and that's when it becomes harder to win people over. So we really try to continue to be kind of true to who we are, true to our brand message, and hopefully people love it and we continue to grow.
Absolutely. So we've heard today how it is possible to grow, scale, and be profitable, but remain true to the purpose and the mission for why you start your business. So as a small business owner or medium-sized business owner, have a revisit of why you started your business and what was important to you at that point, and think about what have you done to water down your message, water down your purpose, and maybe go back and revisit and get back in touch with the real reason why you started your business. Chris Treloar's shared a great example of a journey where that's been done successfully. Encourage you to check out Plant Burger. It's PLNT Burger, and we'll put the links to Plant Burger and also Chris's contact LinkedIn profile in the show notes so that you can follow up. But if you are in the East Coast of the US, go in yourself and check out the taste experience and find out just how good a taste experience it is, and you won't know the difference.
Thanks so much, Paul.
Thanks, Chris.